Beyond the horizon. A couple who always dreamed of traveling the world finds themselves paralyzed when an accident leaves the husband in a wheelchair. Together, they find the strength to pursue their dream of exploring new places, proving that love and adventure can overcome any physical barrier. Alice and Tom were always passionate about adventures. From their first meeting at a travel fair, they shared dreams of exploring every corner of the world. In their small apartment, maps adorned the walls, and travel guides were scattered everywhere. Each destination was a new dream, each plan a new thrill. Saturday morning was full of anticipation. Alice was excited to discuss their next destination with Tom. He waited for her with a radiant smile, sitting at the breakfast table. The two were immersed in a project that seemed like a fairy tale, a detailed itinerary for a trip around the world. "I can't wait to see the northern lights in Norway," Tom said, his eyes shining with excitement. "And the beaches of Bora Bora. Let's explore each one." Alice agreed, her wide smile reflecting the same enthusiasm. "How about we start with Japan? I've always wanted to see the cherry blossoms in bloom." The day passed in a series of lively discussions about itineraries and tourist spots. Alice and Tom's excitement was contagious, and their love was evident in every shared laugh and every plan they made. It seemed nothing could stop their dreams. By late afternoon, as the sun was setting, they embraced on the balcony, looking out at the city, which seemed small compared to the vast world they planned to explore. Tom held Alice's hand and said, "We're going to do this, no matter what. We have an incredible future ahead." Alice squeezed his hand, her eyes full of hope and love. "Yes, and we'll do it together. There's nothing we can't conquer." The future was bright, and the promise of adventures awaited around every corner. Alice and Tom were ready to take on the world, and their love seemed to be the only thing they needed to make their dreams come true. It was a rainy Saturday morning, and the city was covered in a thick fog that seemed to reflect Alice and Tom's mood. They were preparing for a weekend trip, a small getaway to relax and recharge. Tom was excited, his enthusiasm contagious, while Alice, though happy, was also a little tired. They were on their way to a nearby lake, a place that always made them feel at peace. Tom was driving and Alice, sitting beside him, was distracted, organizing the playlist for the trip. The sound of the rain hitting the windshield and the soft music playing on the radio created a cozy atmosphere, but their destination was about to turn into a nightmare. As they rounded a sharp curve, a car suddenly appeared in their lane, seemingly out of control due to the heavy rain. Tom tried to swerve, but the vehicle crashed into the side of their car. The impact was brutal. The sound of crumpling metal and breaking glass filled the air, and everything happened in a whirlwind of pain and chaos. Alice found herself in a state of shock, her mind unable to process what was happening. The car came to a sudden stop, and the reality of the accident began to sink in. She looked at Tom, who was pale and unconscious. Fear and pain swirled inside her. With difficulty, Alice managed to get out of the car and called emergency services. The rain continued to fall, mixing with her tears as she tried to calm Tom, who was conscious but clearly in pain. The ambulance arrived within minutes, but to Alice, every second felt like an eternity. She watched the scene in a state of near paralysis as paramedics worked quickly to stabilize Tom. The expression of pain on his face and her own sense of helplessness were almost unbearable. At the hospital, time seemed to drag on. Alice waited in the emergency room, her mind filled with terrifying thoughts. When the doctor finally appeared, his eyes were grim. "Tom has suffered a significant spinal injury. Unfortunately, the injury has compromised the function of his legs. He may be paralyzed for life." The doctor's words hit Alice like a punch in the stomach. She tried to process the devastating news as a wave of despair and sadness washed over her. Tears streamed down her face as she sat beside Tom's bed, unable to believe what she was hearing. Tom opened his eyes and looked at Alice, his expression full of fear and pain. "I don't know how to handle this, Alice," he murmured, his voice fragile. "Everything we planned, everything we dreamed of, it feels like it's been taken from us." Alice held his hand, trying to offer comfort that seemed impossible. "We'll get through this, Tom. I'm here with you. We'll find a way to move forward, no matter what happens." The impact of the accident was devastating, not only physically but emotionally. The life they knew was turned upside down, and the dreams they had shared seemed distant and unreachable. But in the midst of the pain and loss, Alice and Tom had each other, and that was something worth fighting for. The time after the accident was a mixture of medical routines and emotional uncertainties. Alice and Tom faced a new reality, one that challenged not only their physical strength but also their emotional resilience. Alice and Tom's home, now adapted for Tom's new condition, was filled with medical equipment and modifications necessary for life in a wheelchair. The first few months were particularly difficult. Tom struggled to accept his new reality, and each day was a constant reminder of what he had lost. Every morning, he looked out the window, watching the world outside, remembering the trails he used to walk and the adventures that now seemed impossible. He tried to convince himself that this was just a phase, that soon he would feel like himself again, but reality was unforgiving. Alice was by Tom's side the whole time, but that didn't make the difficulties any easier. She became the primary caregiver, balancing her job and the new demands of life with Tom. The daily tasks, once simple, became constant challenges. There was the practical side of adaptation, adjusting the house, managing physical therapy sessions, and handling medical appointments. But there was also the emotional side, the strain of seeing the person she loved suffer and the constant feeling of standing on the edge of a precipice. The moments of disconnection were the most painful. There were days when Tom shut himself off, refusing to talk about his frustrations. He tried to hide the pain he was feeling, but Alice could see the suffering in his eyes. Sometimes, the silence between them was so heavy it felt almost unbearable. In addition to the physical and emotional struggles, Alice and Tom faced the judgment and pity of others. Some people were supportive and understanding, but others were insensitive, offering unsolicited advice or making comments that only deepened Tom's pain. The stigma associated with disability and the changes in social roles added an extra layer of complexity to their struggle. Their relationship underwent a transformation. What was once a light and adventurous partnership became a constant battle against adversity. Alice tried to maintain a semblance of normality, attempting to create moments of joy for Tom, even as her own strength was diminishing. One day, during one of Tom's physical therapy sessions, Alice came across a small support group for caregivers and people with disabilities. Reluctant at first, she decided to attend a meeting, hoping to find some relief in the stories of others. There, she met people with similar experiences and began to see a glimmer of hope amidst the pain. The interaction with the group brought a new understanding for both Alice and Tom. They began exploring small ways to rediscover joy and connection, even within the limitations imposed by disability. Tom started to realize that despite the drastic changes in his life, there was still room for dreams and new experiences if he and Alice could redefine what it meant to live fully. The journey was far from easy, but Alice and Tom were beginning to find a new way to walk together, facing each challenge with courage and love. They were starting to understand that the true adventure wasn't just in the places they could visit, but in how they could overcome adversity together, proving that love and perseverance could transcend any obstacle. The morning was bright and sunny as Alice and Tom prepared for their first adapted trip. For months, Alice and Tom had been planning this adventure, choosing a destination known for being accessible and wheelchair-friendly. The excitement and anxiety were visible on their faces as they loaded the car with essential items for the trip: wheelchairs, ramps, and adapted equipment. They arrived at their destination, a small coastal town famous for its accessible beaches and adapted trails. The town had well-planned infrastructure, with wide boardwalks and ramps that allowed easy access to all attractions. The hotel they stayed at was a model of accessibility, with adapted rooms and bathrooms designed to meet Tom's needs. The first day began with a visit to the seaside boardwalk. Alice carefully pushed Tom's wheelchair as he admired the ocean view. The sound of the waves and the salty sea air brought a sense of renewal and freedom. The boardwalk was perfectly adapted, with ramps and rest areas, allowing Tom to enjoy the scenery effortlessly. However, the journey wasn't without challenges. During a visit to a local market, one of the ramps wasn't as well designed as the others. Alice and Tom struggled to navigate up and down, and frustration was evident. But with the help of a kind market employee and Alice's determination, they overcame the obstacle. The moment of difficulty quickly turned into a small victory when Tom, smiling, finally reached one of the market's highlights, a fresh fruit stall he loved. Dinner was at a seaside restaurant, where the sunset view was breathtaking. The restaurant was known for its accessibility, and the staff made sure the experience was perfect for Tom. Sitting at the table, Alice and Tom shared a delicious meal, talking about the day's small victories and making plans for their future adventures. The food was excellent, and the atmosphere was welcoming, providing a sense of normalcy and pleasure. On the second day, they decided to explore an adapted trail in a nearby national park. The trail was designed for wheelchair users and provided an immersive nature experience. The path was smooth and well-maintained, with rest areas and observation points along the way. Alice and Tom were accompanied by a local guide who helped them navigate the trail and shared information about the region's flora and fauna. As they advanced along the trail, Tom beamed, absorbing every detail of the landscape and expressing his joy. Alice realized how much these experiences meant to him and to them as a couple. Although there were moments of frustration and unexpected challenges, the small victories, the beauty of the sea, the delicious food, and the nature trail, made every effort worthwhile. Their return to the hotel was peaceful, filled with lively conversations about what they had experienced. Alice and Tom were tired but happy, feeling fulfilled and more connected than ever. The trip was proof that, even with limitations, it was possible to find joy and satisfaction in new adventures. The day ended with a look toward the future, with the certainty that despite the challenges, the world was still full of new discoveries and experiences to explore together. After the successful first adapted trip, Alice and Tom returned home with a sense of accomplishment but also with the awareness that difficulties continued to be an important part of their lives. Returning to their routine brought up unexpected challenges and the need for continuous adjustments. The joy of the recent trip didn't erase Tom's fears about the future. He began to wonder whether he could really continue exploring the world despite the difficulties. One day, Alice sat beside him on the sofa, a determined look in her eyes. She had noticed the change in Tom's behavior and decided to confront the issue head-on. "We need to talk about this," she said, her voice firm but filled with love. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight in his chest increase. "I know, Alice. I'm scared. The next trip, what if it's too hard? What if I can't handle it?" Alice took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We've already overcome so much together. We're not going to let fear paralyze us now. If the next trip feels like a challenge, we'll face it together, like we always have." With his heart feeling a bit lighter, Tom started researching accessible destinations. He found a place on the Italian coast, known for its wheelchair-friendly facilities and beautiful landscapes. Alice threw herself into planning the trip, checking every detail to make sure everything would be in order. As the date of their new adventure approached, Tom prepared himself mentally for what lay ahead. He was starting to understand that his insecurities were natural, but that his courage, along with Alice's strength, was greater. On the day of departure, Tom and Alice arrived at the airport with a mixture of anxiety and excitement. Tom was carefully assisted in boarding, and the airline staff were especially attentive. As the plane took off, Alice looked at Tom, watching the look of anticipation on his face. It was a reminder that despite the challenges, their journey was just beginning. During the flight, they talked about the details of the new trip and what they hoped to see and experience. Tom began to feel more confident, his worries fading with every word of encouragement from Alice. Upon landing in Italy, the breathtaking landscape seemed to reflect the couple's renewed hopes. They were warmly welcomed and settled into the adapted hotel. The first day was dedicated to exploring the neighboring town. Though there were challenges, such as narrow streets and stairs, the hotel provided an adapted van and a team willing to help. Each small obstacle overcome was a victory, and the conversations between Alice and Tom were filled with laughter and shared stories. At the end of the day, when they returned to the hotel, both were tired but happy. The feeling of accomplishment was palpable, and Tom realized that the real barrier had been the fear of facing the unknown, not the inability to travel. As the nights turned into days of new explorations, Tom and Alice discovered that life, with all its limitations and surprises, still offered precious moments. Alice's unwavering support and Tom's determination intertwined, creating a new narrative for their lives, one that challenged physical limitations with courage and love. The Italian coastal town was vibrant and full of life, but Tom and Alice's journey was about to face an unexpected challenge. At a local market, full of colors and tempting aromas, Alice and Tom were enjoying the sights and tastes of the region. Alice, excited, stopped to chat with a friendly vendor selling local crafts. The man, charming and eloquent, showed great interest in Alice, complimenting her and making comments that made her smile. Tom was a bit distant, trying to maneuver his wheelchair through the crowd and the stalls, waiting for Alice to finish her conversation and come back to help him get into the adapted car they had rented. Meanwhile, the vendor continued to charm Alice with his attention, seemingly oblivious to Tom's presence. When the conversation ended, Alice approached Tom, visibly excited by the experience. But when she saw the tense look on Tom's face and his closed-off expression, she realized something was wrong. Tom forced a smile, but the feelings of jealousy and insecurity grew in his chest. He began to question whether it was fair for Alice to continue caring for him, sacrificing herself on their trips when she could be enjoying life differently. That night, back at the hotel, Tom was restless. The conversation they had before bed was filled with tension. Alice tried to understand what was going on, but Tom was locked in his own thoughts. During the night, Tom made a difficult decision. He didn't want Alice to feel obligated to live like this, sacrificing her freedom and dreams because of his condition. The next morning, Tom revealed to Alice his decision to cut the trip short and return to their hometown. "I need some time alone," he said, his voice strained. "I love you, but I don't think it's fair for you to live like this. I feel like I'm holding you back, and that's not what you deserve." Alice, her eyes brimming with tears, tried to comfort him. "Tom, I love you, and I don't mind the difficulties. Being by your side is what matters most to me. Don't let fear or insecurity tear us apart." Despite Alice's words, Tom was determined. He decided to go to his mother's house, seeking some space to reflect on what was happening. The pain of separation was immense, but he felt he needed time to reevaluate his life and choices. Alice stayed behind, heartbroken and worried about the future of their relationship. Tom's decision left her sad and confused, but she knew she needed to respect the space he required. As Tom returned home, Alice faced the harsh reality of a journey interrupted and an uncertain future. The separation between Tom and Alice was a devastating blow for both. Tom returned to his hometown, immersed in introspection and loneliness. He spent his days secluded at his mother's house, torn between the love he felt for Alice and the sense of inadequacy that his condition brought. The days were long and silent, and the weight of the decision to end the trip seemed heavier with each passing day. Alice, on the other hand, returned to her routine with a broken heart. She spent weeks in a state of melancholy, trying to find a way to cope with Tom's absence and the frustration of not being able to continue the dream trip they had planned together. Despite her efforts to move on, Alice held on to the hope that the separation was just a temporary phase. During this period, Alice became involved with a local organization that supported people with disabilities. She found purpose in helping others find accessibility and inclusion, and it brought new meaning to her life. At one of the organization's events, Alice gave a presentation about her experience and how life can be adapted to new circumstances. Her inspiring speech attracted the attention of many, and a local news story was made about her work. The story caught the attention of a journalist who was writing an article about overcoming challenges and love. She decided to investigate further, and through the story, she learned about Tom. Alice's story, with her enthusiasm and resilience, deeply touched Tom's heart, prompting him to reflect on the decision he had made. One rainy morning, while Tom was watching the news report on television, he saw the image of Alice, radiant and full of life, talking about how she was finding joy and fulfillment despite the difficulties. The love and passion he had felt for her had never disappeared, but now, seeing her rise and fight with dignity, he felt a new urge to correct the mistakes of the past. Tom decided to reach out to Alice. He sent her a heartfelt message, expressing his regret and his new perspective on life and love. He mentioned how Alice's courage had inspired him to reconsider his decision and how he was willing to face any challenge to be by her side again. Alice received the message with a mix of surprise and hope. Tom's words reignited the flame of hope she had tried to keep alive. With a heart full of emotion, she replied, suggesting they meet to talk and discuss the future. The meeting between Tom and Alice was filled with emotion. Tom, with eyes shining with sincerity, apologized and promised that he would face his fears and insecurities. Alice, with tears in her eyes, shared her own journey and how, despite the difficulties, she still believed in the future they could build together. This turning point brought new hope for the couple. They decided to give their relationship another chance, now with a deeper understanding of the challenges and joys that awaited them. They were determined to continue the adventure they had started, adapting and facing whatever came their way, together. The renewed enthusiasm brought a fresh energy to their relationship, and both were ready to face any additional challenges that life had in store for them, now with a renewed sense of determination and love. Tom and Alice were prepared to start a new chapter in their lives. The reunion had reignited hope and determination for both of them, and, with a new understanding of the challenges and joys they could share, they were determined to move forward with a renewed commitment. The interrupted trip was back on the agenda, but this time with a different, more mature approach. Inspired by Tom's support and her own journey of overcoming, Alice decided to expand her involvement with the cause of disability inclusion. She used her experiences and the visibility she had gained from the news report to launch a series of videos and posts on social media, sharing information and resources on accessibility. Her efforts quickly gained recognition, and she became an important voice in the community, helping to promote change and raise public awareness about the importance of inclusion. Alice's influence on social media grew, and she used this platform to organize events and campaigns that improved the lives of people with disabilities. Her followers supported her, and she received praise for her hard work and dedication. The transformation of her passion into a cause with real impact became an essential part of her life, and her collaboration with other organizations further amplified her message. While Alice expanded her reach, Tom became more actively involved in supporting his wife's causes, using his connections and knowledge to help implement practical and adaptive solutions. Together, they formed an effective team, combining their skills and experiences to create a positive impact on the lives of those around them. The most emotional moment came when Tom decided to propose again in an unusual and unforgettable way. During a significant public event, where Alice was giving an inspiring speech about accessibility, Tom prepared a surprise for her. He approached her in the middle of an attentive and emotional crowd, holding a large sign that read, "Alice, you've transformed my life and shown me the true meaning of love. Will you marry me again?" Alice's eyes filled with tears as Tom knelt down and pulled out a special ring he had chosen with great care. The crowd cheered and applauded, touched by the demonstration of love and commitment. The proposal, made in the heart of a public celebration, moved everyone present and made the moment even more significant. Tom and Alice's wedding was a celebration filled with love and joy. The ceremony took place in a charming location, decorated with flowers and lights that reflected the couple's happiness and optimism. Friends and family, emotional and proud, witnessed the wedding, which was marked by heartfelt speeches and moments of pure happiness. Tom's speech was particularly touching. He expressed his gratitude for Alice, showing him the true meaning of love and resilience. Alice, in turn, spoke about how the journey they had faced together had strengthened their bond and how she deeply admired Tom's courage and commitment. Their words resonated with everyone present, and the love and support of friends and family made the day even more special. After the ceremony, the couple embarked on a honeymoon to Tom's dream destination. It was a place he had always wanted to visit and that now represented a new beginning and the fulfillment of an old dream. The trip was a celebration of their achievements and an opportunity to enjoy special moments together, exploring new landscapes and creating lasting memories. Alice and Tom made the most of every moment of their honeymoon, exploring the destination in an adapted way but with the same enthusiasm and joy they had always shared. The breathtaking landscapes and shared experiences reflected how much they had overcome and how much they could still conquer together. As their honeymoon came to an end, the couple returned home with a new sparkle in their eyes and a renewed sense of gratitude. Sitting together in a peaceful garden with the sun setting in the background, they reflected on the journey they had taken and the lessons they had learned along the way. Tom looked at Alice with a soft smile, admiring how she continued to light up his life. "Do you remember how it all started?" he asked, his voice full of emotion. "I never imagined our story would take us on such a transformative path." Alice held Tom's hand, her gaze full of tenderness. "I never imagined it either, Tom. But everything we went through, every challenge and every victory, brought us here. Facing the world together, despite the difficulties, showed us the true power of love and resilience." As they talked, Tom and Alice recalled the difficult moments and the triumphs that had shaped their journey. From the accident that almost tore them apart, to the struggle to adapt their travels, and Alice's growing influence in promoting inclusion, each experience was a testament to their strength and mutual commitment. They remembered the highs and lows, the doubts and discoveries, and how these moments brought them closer together. Alice shared her emotions about the impact they had made on the lives of others through their actions and how it brought a new purpose to their lives. "Every time someone thanks me for sharing our story or for promoting inclusion, I feel that it was all worth it. And the best part is that we did it together." Tom nodded, his voice choked with emotion. "I never thought we'd find such a great purpose, and that you would be the driving force behind it. You've transformed my life, Alice, and I'm forever grateful for that." The couple talked about their future dreams, about how they would continue to explore the world and fight for greater inclusion, now with a new perspective and renewed determination. They knew there would still be challenges, but they were ready to face them, side by side, with the same courage and love that had always guided them. As the sun set, creating a magical scene around them, Tom and Alice embraced, feeling the peace and joy of having found the balance between dream and reality. They were ready to write the next chapters of their lives, filled with hope and new adventures. Did you enjoy our story? If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your participation is very important to us, and we look forward to sharing more inspiring stories with you. See you next time.